morning, DFS Army and daily fantasy sports enthusiast. This is Craig Bennett, aka Cash Keg, here with DFS Army. We're going to do a first look NBA podcast here. Talk about tonight's 8-game slate. Little rewind of last night. Again, kind of went the way we talked about, with that Houston value, Miami value, pay up for Steph Curry, the Joker, Brogdon, Sabonis, and a lot of people over DFS Army had a really good night. It's fantastic to see, and we're just going to jump right in here and smash this 8-game slate. Again, COVID is kind of taking over the league, so as we go through this, it opens up some value, and I think we might have it in a few games here. Before that, if you're not a part of DFS Army, head over to dfsarmy.com. Use promo code CashCake. Save yourself 10%. Get all the goodies of sports, everything that we have to offer. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit over the 700 subscriber mark threshold here on YouTube. I really appreciate it. Really shooting for that 1,000. So I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you want to see more videos, please let me know in the comments what you want to see, and I will keep knocking these out. But with that, let's jump in and see what we got today. All right. We're going to start with the Orlando at Boston game. No over-under in this game is due to a lot of the Boston injury. We don't really know what's going to go on with them. They got Tatum is out, but there's a lot of guys that are questionable because of close contact and they have to do some more testing. So that's why there's no over-under in this game as of yet. But let's start on the Orlando side of the ball. Again, over here on DraftKings, I'll go through like this like I did yesterday, but I'll talk about pricing for both sides and kind of talk about if they're plays that I would look at or not. On the Orlando side, if there's more guys out on Boston, I like them a little bit more. Aaron Gordon, 7,300 on DraftKings is a little pricey, but he's only 6,500 on FanDuel. And his minutes has been on the rise, unlike early in the year. 35, 36 over his last two, 44 and 32 fantasy points. 4 games ago, put up 44 against Cleveland. I think if we see some of these guys out for Boston, he's an interesting GPP play. I think on FanDuel, he's a cash play at 6,500. It's kind of cheap. Vooch, 9K on DraftKings and 9,400 over on FanDuel. That's a price where he's priced towards the ceiling. So it's more of like, if I'm going to play on an 8-game slate, it's tough. It's tough to throw him in there. 9,400 on FanDuel is way up there for Vooch. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't, hit towards the ceiling the last couple of games. 53, 58, but look at the minutes, 32, 33. He's got to be super efficient in his time to hit those, the ceiling here. So to me, yes, in play, but there's not a lot of meat left on the bone here, and it's really just a last piece if I was building around some value and getting there. And then the rest of the team, again, there's not a whole lot that I love. Fournier's been out for a while. Mark Williams has been out. Terrence Ross, I guess, can always get hot. He's 6K on DraftKings. He's 5,100 on FanDuel. It's more of a fair price on FanDuel. It's really, he's the human torch, as they call him. So if he gets cooking, he can get there, but that's all he does is going to shoot. So don't like that price. 5,500 for Cole Anthony's way too expensive. He's 4,500 on FanDuel, but again, I just on a slate this size, there's no reason to go there, and there's more value on the Boston side if we get some injuries. So it's basically Aaron Gordon for me and maybe a little bit of Terrence Ross. Let's head over to the Boston side of things, and this is where we kind of touched a little bit as we opened up the segment. Tatum is out. Jaylen Brown is questionable. Daniel Theis is questionable. The Time Lord is out. Javonte Green is questionable. We do have Tristan Thompson as probable. Same with Grant Williams. So I'm glad this is an early game because we're going to get the news on this before lock, and it's going to either open up some value or we're going to be playing like extremely heavy on a guy like Jaylen Brown. But if Jaylen Brown is out as well, Marcus Smart goes up, his usage rate goes up like 5 or 6% with Brown and Tatum off the floor. Smart's 7,600 on DraftKings. That's still super expensive. I don't know if he's out. I mean, you got to look at him. 6,200 on FanDuel is more palatable, so I can look at that. Jeff Teague, though, is probably the one that's interesting where he has a ceiling at a cheap price. He's 4,400 on DraftKings. He's 4,700 on FanDuel, so he's more of a value on DraftKings. And if these guys are out, the scoring is going to have to be, Smart, Teague, even, Pritchard's at 4,700. I don't mind looking at him either. 4,700 DraftKings. He's 52 over 200 on FanDuel. I still would rather go to Jeff Teague right here with Pritchard's not a value anymore, but a guy you can look at. Tristan Thompson. Again, if Thies is out, or Daniel Tice is out, sorry. 4,800 for Tristan Thompson. He's 4,400 on FanDuel, and he's a power forward over there. He could play a ton of minutes here. If we have no Tyson, we have, all these bigs out for Boston. He's going to have to play a ton, I mean, they can play a little bit of Taco Fall, I guess, if they had to, but, it's not someone that I would ever really play on an 8-game DFS slate. So really for me on DraftKings, I'm looking at Jeff Teague, Tristan Thompson are the two guys I would really focus on here if we get Jaylen Brown out. If Jaylen Brown plays, it kind of muddies things up a little bit, and he's priced up. He's 8,900 on DraftKings, and he's $9K on FanDuel. But he would have all the usage in the world on this team and against Orlando. And again, a guy you have to consider. But again, he's priced up towards his ceiling, but we've seen 50 and 60 points out of him. So again, we'll have to wait on news on this, but there's definitely some situations where you might have a couple Celtics in your lineup as we get closer to lock. Let's jump up to the next game. It is New York at Cleveland. Again, I don't see a total on this game either. Alex Burks is doubtful for the Knicks. Man, how bad are the Knicks, man? Getting beat by, Kevin Durant and a bunch of scrubs the other day. That was so tilting. Reggie Bullock is questionable for the New York side. So, if Alec Burks is out, we could see a little bit more quickly here. Some knocks, quickly loves to shoot. So it could be interesting. If Bullock is out as well, we'll probably see Austin Rivers starting again, and he's going to see big minutes. But, it's a good matchup, for the Knicks against Cleveland. Cleveland's not a good defensive team at all. So there could be some spots we look at. You can go right back to Julius Randle at 9,100. He's 9,100 on FanDuel as well, but he gets all the usage for this team. You got to love the matchup here. It's a guy that I would rather play him over Vooch. And for the reason of that is Tibbs, man. Even Vooch was like 32, 34 minutes. We're getting 40, we're getting 30 against Charlotte there, but they got, beat kind of bad. Then 38, he's playing 37, 38 minutes, and he's putting up 50. I just feel way safer playing a Randall than I do a Vooch around the same price point. RJ Barrett, 7K on DraftKings, 6,300 on FanDuel. Again, better price on FanDuel. These guys are playing, high 30s minutes. Elf on a Shelf, Peyton, 6,800 on DraftKings is a little pricey for me. But again, he's still 5,700 on FanDuel. He's been stuck on that forever. So a guy I'll look at. Mitchell Robinson at 6,300 on DraftKings, I think is fair. 6K on FanDuel, again, I think is fair. A guy that I would put in my pool, but no one I'd really build around. Austin Rivers is a little bit expensive here at 5,100 on DraftKings, 4,500 on FanDuel. Again, if he gets around 30 minutes, you could think about playing him. I just don't see the massive upside there. And we talked a little bit about Quickly and Knox. 3,300 for Quickly on DraftKings, 3,800 on FanDuel. It's just a GPP flyer here. Nobody that I'm like super excited to play for. So basically it's Randall for me on DraftKings and Mitch Robinson. And then on FanDuel, because they're so cheap, you can look at Peyton, Robinson, Barrett, Randall. You can look at all four of those guys. And that's kind of where I would look at playing on a slate this large. Let's head on over to the Cleveland side of things. Man, they're like stacking bigs in Cleveland. They're getting Jared Allen. He should be available to play today, which is crazy. It's like we might not see any more JaVale McGee. I don't see how JaVale McGee is ever going to see the floor again if they have both Drummond and Allen on that team. I don't see it. But again, Taurean Prince, he is questionable. He was with that trade as well. He's probable. So he could play as well. Again, that's going to muddy up things like Cedi Osman. It screws this whole thing up for Cleveland when it comes to clarity of where things are going to be at. We do have Sexton out, Garland out, Love is out. Porter Jr. is out, but where are they going to play 5 bigs? So I think Larry Nance is 6,600. Again, Allen at 6,700. We don't know how the rotation is going to be, so it's something I don't really want to dive into anyways. But New York is bad. With Drummond being probable today, 9,300 on DraftKings. We go over here on FanDuel, he's 9,800. But how many minutes is he going to play? How many minutes is Allen going to play? It really screws things up. I really don't know, like Taurean Prince, how many minutes he going to take from Chetty Osman, Dotson's going to have to play a ton of minutes. Dotson's 5,200 on DraftKings. He's 5K on FanDuel. There's some big games in there where he put 31 and 40, but last game he only put up 17 against Utah where they got smashed. So he's a guy we can look at because if all these guys are out and they don't have any guards, someone's going to have to run point. So, we could see a ton of Dotson here. And again, Chetty Osman. It's a dumpster fire of a team that are just basically have all bigs and a couple guards. So I'm not too excited about the bigs until I see how they're going to run that rotation. Larry Nance is 7K on FanDuel, 6,600 on the DraftKings. He should see low 30s in minutes, but it's a tough one. I'm really looking maybe at this Dotson, Chetty Osman range, but Chetty Osman's 6,200 on DraftKings. So just the big news for me, I guess, is don't play JaVale McGee anymore. Like, he's out of our lives, which is sad because he's a fantasy point guy when he gets minutes. But with Allen here, I don't understand this whole situation. So I think we're just going to move on here. If you want to play the bigs, go for it. I just don't know the minutes, and I'm just going to, on a slate this size, I'm not going to guess for it. I'm just probably going to skip this situation completely. The Knicks actually might pick this one up looking at this roster and seeing who they actually have. Once this line comes out, I might make a bet on this. Let's head on the next game. Look at Dallas at Milwaukee. Milwaukee favored by 6, 227 over under. Boy, Luka went off last game. Absolutely off. 11K on DraftKings. He is 11.6 on FanDuel. Put up 77 DraftKings points, and that is with the unicorn Porzingis back in the fold, which he is probable. Drew Holiday's probable as well in this game. Torrey Craig for Milwaukee. But 35 minutes, shot 56%, put up 77 DraftKings points. Unreal. 1 assist away from triple-double. We know his upside. Just look at this, 77, 56, 79, 71. Going up against Milwaukee, Drew Holiday should be in his pocket everywhere he goes. But that doesn't mean, Porzingis can't still get there. Like, if we have the value, I want some Porzingis in my life with a close spread like this. They're going to need his scoring. The unicorn at 8K is a complete fade. I talked about this the last time he was on a slate. He's 21 minutes, and that's what we kind of talked about, around the 20-minute mark. And he's not going to hit value at 8K. He's 7,400 on FanDuel. And now if we see where his minutes are bumped up to 27, 28 minutes, maybe. But if he's still going to be in the low to mid 20s, on DraftKings, regardless, he's a fade. FanDuel, like I said, we can see he's going to get 27, 28. Maybe he can get there, but there's not going to be a lot of ceiling for him. But again, this just takes away all these other guys. Cauley Stein, they're out a bunch of guys. So, like, I guess Cauley Stein over at FanDuel at 5K. James Robinson, Cauley Stein's at 4,500 on DraftKings here. And again, if Porzingis is going to be limited in minutes, they are still out. They don't have Powell. They don't have Kleba. Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Josh Richardson. So there's guys that are out, which, for the bigs, again, Powell and Kleba opens up these big minutes. So maybe we could look at a Cauley Stein at 4,500 on DraftKings and a James Johnson at 4,600 on DraftKings. Again, James Johnson's only 42 over on FanDuel. They'd probably be extremely popular again. Because, again, if Porzingis is not going to play massive minutes still, put up 26 minutes against Charlotte, 26 fantasy points. Put up more fantasy points over on FanDuel due to the blocks and steals because he had 3 blocks, 2 steals, which, again, adds up on FanDuel. And he does a little bit of everything like that. So I kind of like the James Johnson play here. And, again, a little bit of Willie Cauley Stein. I don't mind, and then Luka, and then Porzingis is the fade, and the guards I'm not really too excited about because they're not, Tim Hardaway Jr. is not going to get the shots. Burks, I guess Trey Burke we could look at 4,900. With no Josh Richardson and Finney Smith, he could get some shots. He's a little fair price, 4,900 DraftKings, 4,500 on FanDuel. If he creeps up and sees that 30-minute mark, he could get there. Shot really bad last game, 2 for 12. So there could be some plays in this game. And again, it's going up against Milwaukee, though. Let's just dive in on the Milwaukee side. Giannis 10-8 over here. I talked about Drew Holiday being probable, so they got their full allotment of studs. 11-3 over on DraftKings. I'm sorry, on FanDuel for Giannis. This is a game, you can play Giannis because it should be a closer game. The minutes aren't going to be there, but the implied team total is up. It's like 117. This is the game I don't mind playing some Giannis, even though Holiday and Middleton are still there. And they are priced up. Holiday's 7,200 on DraftKings, which is kind of fair. 7,600 on FanDuel, so he's a better price over here on DraftKings. Middleton's up to 8-2. That's expensive. But again, I'm just going to be focusing on these guys, these main three. On FanDuel, Middleton's 7,400. That's too cheap. I love that play. Brook Lopez, 5,600 on DraftKings. He had a game last time. I remember looking at him, 32 fantasy points in 30 minutes. Those blocks helped him get there. But it's always a risky play to play Brook Lopez, 4,900 on FanDuel. Bobby Portis is always interesting. More on DraftKings than FanDuel. He goes in. Usually I like him in blowouts because he does play a ton, but he comes in and gives such good energy. That first game back, 23 minutes, put up 21 fantasy points. But we've seen if he ever creeps in the high 30s, the low 30 minutes, depending on how his game goes, he can hit that 30, 40 points and just smash his salary. So a guy you kind of look at in tournaments, but if it's a close game, and that's one of the things I always make a rule. If I'm playing Giannis, I don't play Bobby Portis. If I'm playing Bobby Portis, I'm not playing Giannis because I don't think Giannis is going to get to his ceiling if Bobby Portis is putting up a 40 burger. So I will keep preaching that if you're making rules. Let's head on to the next game. Memphis at Minnesota. Minnesota favored by 2.5. Over under is 224.5 this game. Let's look at the injury news on the Memphis side. Ja Morant has a chance to return tonight. He is questionable. That would change the whole makeup of this team if he was able to come back. The thing is, on DraftKings, he's palatable. If they run him back, they're not going to run him back 37 minutes, probably be in the low 30s, maybe high 20s, low 30s. At FanDuel at 8,500, he is out of play. But on DraftKings at 7,500, if we see he's going to have like a soft minutes capped at low 30s, he could still get there. He can put up some points, especially against this bad Minnesota team. Joe Val, 7,100 on DraftKings. 7K on FanDuel. Again, tournament only because he's got a really low floor, but he does have a ceiling. We saw that, I think, last game. He put up 50 fantasy points in 30 minutes because the minutes are never going to be. They just play basically minutes to everybody. And so it's really hard for Memphis to really go off here. Again, he shot almost 60% from the floor. But again, 16 boards, 24 minutes. And again, it's against this Memphis team. It's the same matchup. So he could be a little popular if people are chasing that 50 burger. I don't mind going back to him in tournaments, but again, in cash games, I'm not going to. Just a tournament play. If Ja Morant's back, it should just help everybody here, but it could hurt some of these guards. Dylan Brooks is 6,300 on FanDuel, 6,300 on DraftKings, just overpriced. Clark, again, I don't mind going back to him on FanDuel specifically, 5,600. On DraftKings is 6,100. His price has creeped up, but he's got a couple 40 burgers the last 3 games. One against this Memphis team. You just missed out on a double-double by 1 rebound. Put up 45 against Brooklyn. Again, bigs against Brooklyn. But again, there's no defense on this team. But he's going to play low to mid 30 minutes. So if I'm looking at guys to play on this Memphis team, it's the bigs, it's Joe Val, it's Clark, and then it's Ja Morant on DraftKings. I'm not really looking at all these other guys. Kyle Anderson's there. I hate playing slow-mo, especially if Ja Morant's back. Don't ever play slow-mo. Grayson Allen, Tyus Jones is 6,200 on FanDuel, 6,500 on DraftKings. He's not really smashing value at all, but if Morant is out, he should still see a ton of minutes. But if Morant is in, you just X out Tyus Jones. You're not going to play any of him. So, again, Joe Val, Clark are the 2 favorite plays on this team. Let's head on over to the Memphis side. and see what we got here. Karl Anthony Towns is probable for this game. We also have, Rubio's out, Layman's out. It really don't matter. But the big one's Cat is probable. 9,900, which is expensive. 10-8 on FanDuel. Now, 52 fantasy points in 34 minutes last game against Memphis here. He's been pretty consistent. But again, for 10K guy, I need someone that's going to get me over 60. And I talked earlier already about Julius Randle or Vooch that can get me what he's been putting up for a fraction, for $1,000 savings. So, excuse me. That's where I can kind of see things at. D-Russ, 8,300 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. It's, again, more of a FanDuel play. I talked about this when I did this pod a couple days ago. Russell and Beasley, they're priced up to a point where you can't play them together. 43 fantasy points for D-Russ in the same matchup in 36 minutes. Shooting the ball a ton, 21, 21, 22 his last three. Beasley is 7,100 on DraftKings. He's getting really priced up. 6,400 on FanDuel, still a fair price. Going to be playing mid-30s minutes. Again, put up a 48 burger against this Memphis team in 34 minutes. Playing, 34, 35, 40 minutes his last three. Again, 7,100 is priced up. But this is what I mean. It's tough to play both of them at their price. I think you can on FanDuel more because they're separate positions too, and they're 7,500 and 6,400. But on DraftKings, it's tough, at their current prices, and maybe some people will chase the Beasley, ceiling game there. But other than that, I don't want anything to do with this Memphis team. It's basically Beasley, D-Russ, and I don't really want Towns at his price, so I'll just sprinkle those guys in. I don't want to guess. Like Anthony Edwards, 4,500 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings. He's just not doing it. And I want guys that are going to hit their ceiling. And I don't see anything here out of this team that's going to do that. So let's head on over and move to the Chicago OKC game. This one does not have a spread either, which is fun. Seems like a lot of them don't. Looks like Lauri Markkanen is probable to come back today. Otto Porter's probable. Sato is out. Chandler Hutchinson is out. That's the big news here. If Lauri comes back, it's going to hurt kind of all the usage here, especially for Thad Young. Zach LaVine priced up at 9,500. Woo! Now, I know he can get her done, but that is expensive, especially if Lauri Markkanen comes back. He's going to steal some shots from LaVine. Porter coming back will steal some shots from LaVine. So he's almost priced out. 9K on FanDuel is a little bit more palatable, but 9,500 on DraftKings. They put up 66 against the Clippers there in 42 minutes, playing heavy minutes. So 66, 59, 45, 40. I don't think we're going to see the 66 or 59 so much against this team. I think this is going to be more, more of a, maybe a 45 or 50 spot, which he wouldn't get there. So it's kind of priced out for me. Kobe White, 7,400 and 6,400. I think that's where I would rather go if I'm playing a guard on the Chicago team. You have a little bit more meat left on the bone to hit tournament value there where you're not priced at your ceiling. So I think I would rather go Kobe White. Lauri Markkanen just coming back, 6,400 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DraftKings. It's hard to say how many minutes he's going to play. If they're going to say he's going to play, high 20s, low 30s, I think you can look at him. But a guy I would not definitely build around. Porter Jr., 5,500 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. Again, it comes down to how many minutes they're going to play him. I can't see them playing him a ton, maybe high 20s. And again, that's kind of priced towards his ceiling, so I don't love it. And again, if Lauri comes back, you're not playing Thad Young at all, especially this priced up. So I think my big focus here is just basically Kobe White on this team. With those two guys, Lauri and Porter Jr. back, I think they're just going to eat into the usage and eat into some of the minutes for some of these other guys that are fringe plays where the ceiling mark I can see is basically I'm just going to look at Kobe White. And again, he's kind of expensive on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, he's very, very fair priced. And that's basically it, which is a shame because there's always fun playing some Bulls when they're shorthanded there. But Yeah, just Kobe White for me. Head on over to the OKC side, see what injuries we have here. I think Baisley is questionable last time I checked. Yeah, so Baisley is questionable here. Now, we're not going to get the see who slides into the starting lineup here. I don't think it's going to be Roby like when we had Horford out. But SGA 7,700 on DraftKings. This Chicago team's not a great defensive team. 8,200 on FanDuel. I think he's in play on both sides, but again, we have low floor with SGA, but we do have ceiling games out of him over the last week or so where he's put up 55 and 51, but the last two, 20 and 33. But again, going up against the Lakers, that's a tough matchup for anybody. But again, he's got a real low floor on him. Again, Al Horford at 5,600 is pretty stinking cheap. He's never going to see massive minutes, but he could be a last spot kind of guy. 5,500 on FanDuel. Nobody's I'm super excited about. Diallo could, draw the start, actually, if Baisley is out. 4,900 on DraftKings, 4,700 on FanDuel. Maybe more interesting on FanDuel. But again, this is another team that just is going to play damn near, 10, 12-man rotation, and it's like, I hate it. Dort, 4,100 on DraftKings. 4,100 on FanDuel. He sees minutes, but he's not putting up massive points because he doesn't really do a whole lot. So, for some reason, if they would start Isaiah Roby next to Horford, then yeah, I'd love Isaiah Roby at 3,700. We see he got the start next to or for Horford in 24 minutes, put up 27 fantasy points. So he can get it done. I guess we'd have to see that starting lineup, but I don't think they will. I think they will start like a guy like Diallo. But if they do, that would be the guy I would be looking at would be Roby. Other than that, don't love it, man. I mean, like I said, Horford's kind of cheap. You can look at him. I have no problem playing bigs against Chicago, and he's a fair price here at 5,600. And there's some spots here where against Brooklyn put up 38. So he's probably the guy that I would look at on this team that seems like there's some GPP value to jump on here. Let's head on over to the Atlanta-Utah game. Before that, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button for me. Please give me a thumbs up on this video. Let's keep turning these things out. I'll keep trying to jump on here every morning, do a quick look. Head on over to my Twitch if you haven't. Twitch handles Cash Keg. We do a live Q&A a couple hours before lock after we've got some news. Kind of handle any questions for you. So jump on over there, give me a follow there, and we'll do live Q&A later. Around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we've been jumping on. That way we can answer as many questions as we can, help construct lineups. And if you're not a part of DFS Army, head on over there, sign up, use promo code CashCake, save yourself 10%, and check out the cheat sheets. We were spot on yesterday, like I said, with the Curry and Jokic as the spend-ups and to get away from Embiid and all that situation of Philly. I think we were spot on yesterday. So head on over and see what we got to offer, and we'll be in there all day chatting up some hoops and every other sport that we have coming on. But with that, let's head on over to this Atlanta and Utah game. Utah favored by 6 with a 224.5 over-under. And if we look at Utah or at the Atlanta side, Bogdanovich is still going to be out for a while. No Gallo. Rondo is questionable. He feels like he's been questionable all year. So, it's 8,700 for Trae Young. Again, it's going up against Utah, which is not fantastic. They got implied team total Atlanta for 109. I don't love this price tag for him. 8,800 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. Capella at 6,700 on DraftKings, 6,400 on FanDuel. I like that price tag way more. John Collins, anytime Capella plays, I don't get excited about playing. He just eats up all his rebounds. Like his rebound rate goes way down. He still put up 11 and 13, but it's like everything, like all the usage, like they're two bigs that, are very active, and Collins is way better without Capella on the floor. So I don't like that price tag on. I'd rather play Capella. We got Herter, Cam Reddish, 4,800. 4,500 on FanDuel. I like Reddish with Bogdanovich out. There is some ceiling games out of him. We saw 37 against Charlotte. But he's got super low floor. You can't play him in cash, but you can always look at him in tournaments. But again, this is not a great matchup against Utah. It's not some where I'm just trying to shove people in. I think they'll need Capella's size to go up against Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert plays pretty heavy minutes. So I think in this team, I'm just going to look at Capella here and move on. On the Utah side of things, again, I mentioned about it a little bit with Rudy Gobert. Man, I still can't believe they gave him that much money. I love seeing Shaq kind of roast him, but holy crap. For a league that's going stretch fives and shooting threes and everything else that they're doing, and you get a stick and Gobert that just guards the rim, which, I mean, he's a good rim protector, but the dude's not stepping out and hitting threes, and he's not spacing the court. Like, he's just, I don't get it, but whatever, man. But he's playing, mid-30s minutes, 7,800. I don't mind going to him, for a little bit of value. He's got a low floor, but again, it's up against Atlanta team, which, is not a good defensive team. So he can get to the 40 mark, but we need, at that price on DraftKings, you probably need more of the 45, 48. So not someone I'd be trying to stuff into all my lineups. Clarkson went nuclear. We talked about that a couple days ago. Once we had Ingles out, he was a lot cheaper going up against Cleveland, put up 41 in 28 minutes. So he's another guy kind of like Ross, but he does a little bit more than Ross does. He rebounds and gets a few more assists. So you got to always look at Clarkson at 6,100 on DraftKings. He's still 5,200 on FanDuel. He should be in your player pool here against Atlanta. These environments like this that are up and down are fantastic for him. Bojan Bogdanovic, 4,300 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DraftKings. Put up 28 fantasy points. This is another guy that I like. I think I'm looking at Clarkson and Bogdanovic. They're just priced way too low here. If we look at is Ingles going to be out this game as well? Yeah, Ingles is out. So again, love Bogdanovic here. Love Clarkson. More so on FanDuel. I think Bogdanovic is the best play on DraftKings for the Utah side. I'm not really looking at Mitchell or Conley. I think you can play them. They're just priced towards their ceilings. That's the only reason. No problem playing them. They can always get you, a 40 spot. But if I'm looking to where I can get GP value and I can see guys at maybe 6, 7, 8X, it's definitely this Clarkson. It's definitely the Bogdanovic, guys that can get it going here and shooting the rock. So that's where I would look, especially without Ingles. Really want to focus on those two guys, especially against Atlanta, because, again, Atlanta they play fast, and they're not a good defensive unit at all. So that's where I look. I think the whole team's in play on the Utah side. I'd rather focus on them than the Atlanta side. But look for those cheap values in Clarkson and Bogdanovic. Let's head on over to the Pelicans game. New Orleans at the Lakers. We have no total on this game either. For the Pelicans, Zion is probable this game. He had to sit out last game to some COVID protocol crap. Ball is out. Bledsoe is questionable. We had that right eye irritation, and then we were able to lock button, like we told you, DFS Army. Lock button, Alexander Walker, and he went ham. The dude can ball. I love that, watching that kid play. I believe he came out of West Virginia, but I made a lot of money out of him playing him in Summer League whenever we had that, when things were normal. But with no Ball, and if we see Bledsoe out as well, you can go back to Alexander Walker at 4,400 for sure. Again, it's a way tougher matchup going up against the Lakers here. So, but if he's gonna see massive minutes, look what he did in his Clippers in 33 minutes. Shot 65%. The guy was in Flago, but a 52 burger, and he was min price 3,100 on DraftKings last game. Now, I'm not expecting a 50 burger out of him, but at 4,400, and if we get news that Bledsoe is out, he's going to have to run a lot of more points still. And so 5,500 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DraftKings, still way too cheap on DraftKings, even FanDuel. I'm going to have him in my pool regardless. Now it'll take a little bit of usage away here for Brandon Ingram at 8,600 on DraftKings, 8,800 on FanDuel. That's a little bit harder to swallow here. Now he is going back to his old team. He can get it going, but Zion is back and is going to take some touches away from him. But Ingram's going to have his ball. If we do get Bledsoe out, I think we're going to see a lot of the same. It's going to be Alexander Walker or Ingram having the ball in their hand most of the time, where Hart, Redick, these guys are going to be more spot up guys. Josh Hart had a horrible game last game. 5,200 on DraftKings, 4,400 on FanDuel. 38 minutes, played a ton of minutes. Shot 3 for 9. Didn't get there. Had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, only 6 points. So a lot of people will be off him. I think you can go back to him in tournaments, though, because there are, if his shot starts falling, he could fall into a double-double if no Bledsoe. If Bledsoe plays, I don't want anything to do with Hart here. Same kind of thing with Redick. But they've been running a pretty short rotation again. So Stephen Walker, 6,800, 6,400 on DraftKings. This is another situation where with Zion back, don't love it. But, these all guys are priced down to a point. I would just focus on Alexander Walker in your cash lineups and go heavy on him if we get Bledsoe out. And then Hart in tournaments. And then Zion, I might go heavier on him than Ingram. But again, Ingram and Zion are going to be carrying the load for this team if Bledsoe is out with Alexander Walker. So those are the guys you're looking at. Again, over on the Lakers side, if we go over to the Lakers side, imagine that. Anthony Davis is questionable. Imagine that. LeBron James is questionable. This is ridiculous. Every game these dudes are questionable. Every game these dudes start. So until I see that one of these guys freaking sit and we don't have a line, again, I'm sure Vegas is waiting on what's going to happen. This game starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you're not going to go before lock. But if we look back just over the last few weeks, these guys have always been questionable and they have always started. So I'm just going to assume they're starting. And this is where I've said this many times. If both of them start, they're priced 9,800 and 9,700 on DraftKings, 9,900 and 9,800 on FanDuel. I just don't want any part of it. I want one of them to sit before I play them at these prices. There's plenty other guys that have 50, 60 point upside where I don't need to guess which one of these guys is going to do something that game. So not really excited about any of them. If one of them sat, if I had to pick one of them to play, I don't know, maybe it's AD going up against his old team. But I mean, it's like, I can't do it. Schroeder is 5,900 on FanDuel, 6,400 on DraftKings. Can't really get excited about any of these guys because LeBron James and AD suck up all the usage. Again, if one of them sat, then I want a ton of Schroeder, a ton of Kuzma, and then whoever the one of the big two that are going to play. I mean, I'd want almost all of that. But we're probably not going to have that news. Vogel has no problem playing a ton of guys. If it gets out of control, a lot of things could happen. I can't get excited about the Lakers game. I'm just going to skip over this and again, it's been working out not playing these guys unless somebody's out, and I'm just going to keep moving forward with that until something changes because they play about everybody. I have more interest in this game. Let's go the Clippers at Sacramento and the Luke Walton special clown show that he is until he is booted out of the league, which I would hope sometime this century because I cannot stand that guy and how he coaches teams. But that's never here nor there. Clippers favored by 6, over under of 229.5. Let's see what injuries we have. On the Clipper side, we have Beverly is questionable and Lou Williams is questionable. Now, if both those guys are out, both those guys are ball handlers here. Now, that doesn't mean Kawhi Leonard and Paul George won't be handling the ball. They handle the ball a ton regardless, so it's not like they have to have a true point guard here. But if those guys were out, we could see some crazy thing like, a Reggie Jackson at 3K. He could play a little bit more here if those guys were both out. He hasn't played a ton of minutes, but if we could get 25, 26 minutes out of Reggie Jackson, man, he could be our 3K special that we're looking for. But again, we need both those guys to sit. But it would open up some minutes for the guards, and really they only have him. Paul George would handle the ball even more. So at 9,400, I would see you got to really play a Paul George here, especially against Sacramento. Sacramento's horrible defensive team. So again, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, both in play. Wouldn't play them together. 9,600, 9,400 on FanDuel, 96 and 8,800. So Paul George, I love him. If we have no Lou Williams or Patrick Beverly, and again, Reggie Jackson could be that cheap guy that we would like to take a chance on. We're not going to know before lock, so maybe it's a guy you want to slide into one of your tournament lineups and kind of hope that happens and he gets some extra run here. Because when you look at the rest of the team, you're looking at Ibaka, Batum, Zubac, Marcus Morris, Luke Kennard, I guess 3,600 would get more ball handling duties as well. So you kind of look at him, I guess. But there just be more shots, more usage for the top two, and then Reggie Jackson. That's where I would kind of look. On the other side of the ball, Sacramento Kings, good old Luke Walton. What injuries we have over here? If we look at Sacramento, it looks like Buddy Hield is probable. So that's about it. Basically, they're healthy here. Darren Fox, 8,100, 7,300 on FanDuel. That is way too cheap. No problem going to Fox here on FanDuel. I think DraftKings is a little expensive, but you can definitely look at him. If you're going to run some of these Clippers guys, I would look at running Fox back. Harrison Barnes, 6,500 on DraftKings, 6,600 on FanDuel. There's been a couple ceiling games there against Indy, 45, Toronto, a 39. Last game against Portland, he put up 23. So he's just kind of all over the map, but a guy you can look at. Halliburton's up to 6,700 on DraftKings. Put up a 38 burger in 31 minutes. I think if Buddy Hield's back, it kind of muddies that up a little bit. He's still only 5,400 on FanDuel. So I love that play on FanDuel. 6,700 is a little rich for my blood on DraftKings. But, you get a $1,200 discount on FanDuel. I think he should definitely be a guy you should look in your pool. And if Buddy Hield comes back, no one's going to play him. Again, 6,900 on DraftKings is a little pricey for me. But on 5,700 on FanDuel is very fair. So on FanDuel, you might want to put a rule they have one of these Sacramento guys in your lineup. Because Fox, Hield, Halliburton, all too cheap. Even Rashawn Holmes, 7,200 on DraftKings. 6,800 on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel. I really like him. I think even the price, is up. I still think he can get you a 6x, close to 7x on this price tag. 39, 47, playing mid 30 minutes the last two games. So there's a lot of love here, especially on the FanDuel side for Sacramento. They're all kind of priced up on DraftKings, but I still think you could look there. And it's going to be, it could be an interesting hammer game. Just for the fact that if we get some injury news on the Clippers side, it'll open more usage up and you can play a couple of these guys. So kind of feel like I like this game more than the Lakers-Pelicans game outside of Alexander Walker. So, but with that, appreciate you hanging out with me, talking a little bit of early lock here NBA on Friday. I hope you guys have a great Friday at work. And again, head on over to my Twitch channel, Cash Keg, and I will see you around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we do a little Q&A, answer some questions, talk about roster construction, and help you win that money. Again, hit that follow button for me. Hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate each and every one of you. It's Cash Keg. I'm out. Deuces.